Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Thursday Night Lives with the Parent Pod. And the Parent Pod, every week we are trying to be bringing you different resources and topics, both fun, serious, educational, everything in between. This hour's for you. So we're going to have some fun, we're going to learn some stuff, and we're going to do some fun giveaways. This evening, I have two guests that have worked with Cape Cod Moms before, and I'm excited that they are back again this evening. You might have seen them before at the Parent Resource Fair or out in public. You might have had a chance to get to know them. We have Amy Wyman from Good Grief Cape Cod, and we have Jacob Stapleton from Children's Cove. And tonight they're going to be talking about, we're going to generally talk about two very important topics, grief and body and internet safety. And later in a couple weeks, we're going to come back to these topics and we're going to do a little more in-depth talk on this. So just a little reminder, we do prizes. So we're going to be awarding a kindness basket to someone tonight, and we're going to surprise them live on the air. And that's going to be about halfway through our show. And we're also going to be awarding a Cape Cod Quarantini shirt and a $25 cash card to someone who, just by asking a question this night. So if you ask a question, you'll be entered to win. We'll put your name into random.org over here while Jacob and Amy are talking, because they're going to take your questions. And then we'll award some prizes to them. Cape Cod Quarantini shirts, just for everybody who may not remember, they were made by my friend Lily Matthews. She's from Falmouth, and she's in 8th grade, and they got a little shark fin and a ball, if you can't tell, with a little quarantini. They're really cute, and she's trying to make some money this summer, so I'm happy to support her. So with that being said, let me bring on my guests this evening. I'm going to bring on Jacob and Amy right now. Here we go. Hi, guys. How are you? Oh, hold on one second. I forgot to unmute them. Hi, Jacob.
Hi.
How are you? Hi, Amy.
Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight.
Thanks so much for joining us. So, as I said before, Amy is from Good Grief Cape Cod, and they deal with getting information for children and families going through grief, whatever may be the cause, whether it's through a death, a trauma, and even something like what's going on right now. That's certainly, we were just talking, I was just saying, I kind of feel like a trauma victim lately with reriding the hamster wheel over and over and over again. And then my friend Jacob here, and he's from Children's Cove, and I'm really glad he's joining us, because one of the things he's going to kind of talk about tonight is internet safety in a world where we're on the computer and on the internet more, and I'm overwhelmed, guys. I'm overwhelmed. So why don't we start with you, Jacob? Why don't you start right in, introduce yourself, tell us about you, what Children's Cove does, and let's get going.
Absolutely. And first thing, I just wanted to let you know, so I did do a little quick check, and it looks like my video's not working. So I apologize for that, everyone. I'm not intentionally trying to hide, just something's going on with my computer right now. So, but my name is Jacob Stapledon. I am the Community Education and Outreach Coordinator at Children's Cove. We are the Child Advocacy Center for the Cape and the Islands. We work collaboratively with all departments of law enforcement, from Bourne to Provincetown, as well as Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, the Department of Children and Families, which is the child protection agency for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as well as the District Attorney's Office for the investigation and response of cases involving child sexual abuse, severe physical abuse, witness to domestic violence, and commercial sexual exploitation of children, which includes online or internet-based exploitation, as well as human trafficking. So we deal with some pretty heavy content and some pretty difficult stuff. However, our entire organization is dedicated to the safety of children in our community, and making sure that we're doing so operating from hope, healing, best practices, and regardless of what has happened to someone, it does not determine their outcome in life. That we believe that everybody can and will recover from trauma. So just as a quick background for who we are and what we do, and my primary role is to provide education such as this and training out to the community and professionals. So definitely fantastic to work with Cape Cod moms. I've met some great partners such as Good Grief Cape Cod. So just a lot of good stuff. So as far as for the topic that we were going to talk about tonight, which is internet safety, that's uh, one of the big pieces I talk about is that seems like such a big, broad topic. Same thing as when we talk about body safety. As, oh my God, what does that mean? And it's lingo.
Overwhelming.
Yeah,
it's overwhelming to think about. It's a lot.
It definitely is. It's very overwhelming to think about, and because both of these things, they, as adults and as parents, we know a lot. We have a lot of knowledge in our lives and about things that kids don't. And so sometimes it's hard for us to separate our extensive knowledge and give just the need to know into information for kids, and that makes it really difficult because we always want to, teach kids about, safety crossing the street, right? And looking both ways before you cross the street. And, kids are going to ask why. Well, we say because you could get hurt. We don't go into all of the graphic details of what, being hit by a car might end up with, but we talk about safety generally. And so when we're talking about body safety, when we talk about internet safety, we don't necessarily need to go all into the nitty gritty and detailed reasons why. We just have to get to the heart of it, and it's, well, because I love you, because you're my child, because I want to keep you safe, and some things aren't safe, and that's why. So establishing those rules. And I think that, with what we were talking about before, with everybody kind of being at home, self-quarantined, and, various levels of restrictions and personal preference and personal health issues, children are spending a dramatically increased amount of time online. And so because of that, it's really important for us to start thinking about that access and the amount of time that kids are spending online. Um, and because the reality is that the internet is not a safe place. Even for young kids, even though there's so many websites that are dedicated just for young kids, just even though there's programs and applications, and there's Game Boys and Switches and those types of systems that are specifically for kids, not all of them are safe devices. And so I think the biggest thing is, as parents, we have to start raising our level of awareness and engagement with this technology.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that because even things that you wouldn't normally think of, for example, my son was playing a Slither.io game, and I would have thought that was relatively harmless. Like it's a worm chasing around, the little glowing balls on the screen. But it was the names that of the people that they were naming themselves that he was playing against, that every once in a while there's something inappropriate. And, I know he wants to play Fortnite, but every once in a while there's something, you really have to monitor. And like you said, you might think it's safe, but it might not be.
And that's the piece that, with the advent of technology, and regardless of your age and your exposure to the world of technology and online, it grows so fast and it moves so quickly. And now we've all just seen how in the past 3 months how much has shifted online. And unfortunately, one of the realities is that those that their goal, their objective, is to exploit children who are, trying to victimize children. They now have less of a direct access to children, and so predators and those that are who are trying to gain access to children are going to go. They're always going to go where children are, and right now they're online. And so a lot of the times, when even parents that are being very diligent about what their kids are interacting with, so video games, for example, nobody would generally think or have a second doubt that Pokemon or Minecraft or any of those places
Yep.
are spaces where there may be predators. Unfortunately, the reality is that is exactly where they are. And so when we're talking about online safety, it really begins with us, the parents, those who are giving our children the access to these places. I think we can all recognize that, yes, there's some very dark places on the internet, but sometimes dark places invade the places that seem like they're supposed to be okay. And so having our level of awareness and being a part of our children's online experience is 100% important.
Absolutely. And more and more there's new apps, and as kids get older, there's these things like TikTok. I mean, it blows my mind. I never thought I'd feel like old, but we grew up like on the dawn of cell phones, and now we have apps called TikTok where they're dancing. But again, that's another place predators can lie. And as they get to be teens and they want to have these applications, how do we have that conversation with our kids in terms of, we want to allow them to have a little bit of freedom, but how do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you have that conversation in a way, like you said, without getting too graphic, but setting a standard and saying these are the boundaries? And
yeah, and so one of the things that I often talk about is if you've waited to have these conversations until a kid is already a teenager, you're a little late. And I'm not saying that to shame anyone, and I'm not saying don't start the conversation if you haven't. Have the conversation. That's one of our biggest mottos. But it starts with having simple conversations early and having them often, having them be regular, not making them be a taboo subject to talk about. And so starting with that process with younger children, kids are getting cell phones younger and younger ages. Parents typically start with some very strict rules around those devices. Same thing with iPads, cell phones. And then over time, we start to let those restrictions wane, just because it's one more thing we have to keep track of. But, talking about the reality that, these devices, they're not toys. These are tools. And I think changing the context for how we're looking at technology and saying it's supposed to be used for something specific. And there are going to be times when people don't use tools correctly. And so if somebody isn't using the tool correctly and not using it for what it's supposed to be, then you have to tell me about that. I think another way is that when we're talking about teenagers, is creating a opportunity for safe dialogue. Talk and being able to talk about the things that are difficult. Once somebody is 13, 14 to 15, statistically speaking, 1 in 5 children at the very least will receive some form of sexual solicitation online and on any type of platform. And that statistic is from 2010. Anecdotally, I can tell you it's probably much higher than that. With our work with high school students, about 90% of them had indicated they had received some type of unwanted message. So though it's happening quite often, right? But one of the other statistics is from these online research organizations, with the FBI, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The majority of teens who were polled anonymously said more than 65% of them did not tell their parents. And so these types of interactions, these types of things are happening, but kids are still not going and talking to their parents, which again, high school age youth, that's something that's normal. But creating that avenue of trust and communication, being blunt and being straightforward and being honest. Oftentimes when I'm working with high school kids and I tell them I know what's going on online and I just give them straight, direct answers, the look of surprise is there, but the look of acknowledgement that, yeah, that's what happens is also there. So taking that opportunity to kind of be brave, be bold, and say, hey, look, I know that you're probably on a lot of things that I have no idea what it does. But one of the things I want you to know is that if anything happens on there, if somebody sends you a picture or asks you for something, I just want to know because I want to talk to you about it because I want to make sure you're safe. And I don't want you to ever be in a situation where you feel like you can't talk to me or that you're out of options. Even just even just saying it, you'll probably get the eye roll and the walk away by the teenager, but you've planted a seed. And I think that that's one of the most important things that you can do is plant the seed of trust, of safety, of communication to say, look, no matter what it is, I'm not going to blow my top. I'm not going to lose my mind. I just want to know so that we can help solve the problem together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You bring up a lot of good information. What about with younger kids and talking about internet safety with teenagers? I feel like you can be a little more blunt. But what about like little younger ones? I'm thinking like the 8 to 10-year-olds who are just starting to really be on these devices more and more on more of these what you would think would be harmless games. It's not necessarily going to be a photo that they're going to send you. It might be a phrase you see or a message or a comment you hear. So how because obviously at that age it's a different way of having the conversation.
And I think too, you get a lot of leeway for what you say and the expectations that you set. And guess what? You can mess up a lot, and they're not going to notice either, right? So I think one of the big things that we talk about is establishing those rules that's going to be preventative, right? So having those devices that you have, such as computers, laptops, desktops, cell phones, mobile devices, anything that has access to the internet, keeping those in common areas, right? I think one of the things that we can recognize is that even though there may still be something that happens, the proximity of a parent, of an adult being near that device and maybe being near their child if something happens will increase the likelihood that they'll actually say something to their parent. So having them in the devices in a common space are there, but then creating a connection between the online world and the real world, right? Is, hey, I'll say one of my daughter's names. Hey, Hazel. One of the things that we talk about is that if you're ever out, you're at a playground and a stranger, somebody you don't know, comes up and tries to talk to you, what do? Well, you tell them that you don't talk to strangers, and then you come find daddy or mommy, right?
Right.
Hey, if you're ever playing Minecraft and somebody that you don't know, not one of your friends that you know in real life, tries to message you, delete that message, don't answer it, and then just come and talk to me about it. Establishing that same type of connection, because kids are increasingly living in the online world. That's where they meet people, that's where they know people, they develop those connections. And so we need to adjust the way that we explain these safety rules to children so that it ties into the online world as well.
Absolutely. That was a really good example, and I'm going to have to use that one. I like that you used Minecraft and stuff that my son's playing. You made it really easy for me. So for those watching, do you have any questions for Jacob as we're going along here? Just put them into the comments, and we'll get Jacob to try and answer those for you. What else you got for us, Jacob? We got a few more minutes on this topic.
I think one of the other important things for parents is, regardless of what age, is being involved directly in what's going on with that child and their use of technology, right? A lot of the times we tend to be like, okay, good, we have some time to ourselves now, and we covet that, right? We want that time. However, showing involvement in a kid's life, in a child's life, is something that children are always craving, they're always looking for. If you're showing that you have interest, they're going to be more likely to share that experience with you. It also will allow you that opportunity over time to set those boundaries and set those standards. Hey, when you have a social media account, make sure you're having all of your settings to private. Only accept friends requests from people that you know. And that you know in real life as well, because people that you meet on the internet, they may not be who they actually are, and so you may find yourself in an unsafe situation around that. So even if somebody says that they know someone, unless you 100% know who they are, don't be involved. You can set those ground rules over time as you have the conversation with kids. Having a regular checkup, knowing what it is that they're using, knowing the apps that they're involved in, knowing the games that they're playing, being connected to them on social media. I think a lot of the times we especially when kids are getting older and they're teenagers, they want that freedom, they want that separation. At the end of the day, parents, you do have to remember your children only have access to this because you allow it, right? You provide the technology, you provide the cell phone, you pay for the plan, you pay for the internet, all of those kinds of things. Now you get into some gray areas when it's technology coming from school, but when it's those devices, you have every right to be involved to whatever level that you want, to make sure that they're being safe. We have to stay in that mindset that our children's safety is our ultimate responsibility, and phrasing it in that way and saying, look, I'm not doing this because I don't trust you. I'm doing this because I need to make sure that you're safe.
Right. You triggered me to think about a question that my son recently asked me, which was he really wants to have a YouTube account. And he's had a couple friends recently get a YouTube account. Now, it was probably my fault because I kind of got him started with the Cape Kids Cast thing and doing some fun videos with me, which now has driven him because his friends have gotten their own YouTube channels. He wants his own YouTube channel. And I'm wrestling with that, actually. Do I let him? Do I let him? He even has friends who are getting social media accounts now and Facebook accounts. And to me, like approaching 10, for me personally, it feels really young. I mean, I didn't have a social media account. I think I was 28, 29.
Yeah.
And that was a little old for the Facebook era at that point. And I feel really conflicted about it because it feels like it's going to be the future. I feel like it's putting too much personal information out there, but I already do. He's already kind of out there. I'm just so conflicted about it. And what, in your opinion, what do you think?
So I mean, you're right. We're dealing with a potential transition to a largely online world. Kids are getting cell phones, social media accounts, and engaging with this content at much younger and younger ages, which is why there is a YouTube Kids. However, YouTube is still not a super safe place because it exists online. I think the challenge is we are living in a world which grants children access to things that in so many other aspects of lives of children are regulated. The ages in which somebody can drive, the ages in which somebody can buy nicotine products, the age in which somebody can buy alcohol, when they can vote, when they can do things. And yet we have this unfettered access to technology, which seems to be unrestricted, and it falls directly on you. Children all age and mature at different levels and speeds. But one of the things that can often be seen is people who are intelligent online can draw information incredibly quickly off of just what's in the background and where someone is. And there's been a lot of examples of there being situations of safety for kids, for adults, where somebody could find a location for someone, no matter how anonymous they were trying to be. There was just one thing in the background that somebody missed. And the next thing they know is they're getting a knock on the door. They're having something coming. There's all this terms like swatting, where people are calling SWAT teams into houses and doors are getting kicked in. And so at what point does a child have that awareness, a maturity, and ability to do that? I don't know. And so it also depends on your level of involvement. Is it always going to be in the same space? Is there a background? Is it, reviewing toys? What is it? Are you going to have comments turned off, so that people can't write comments to a child? Are you going to have messaging turned off? And so it's about that level of involvement. Is there a way that he can have a YouTube channel with your involvement and you can do everything possible to make sure that it is safe? Absolutely. Do you have the time, capability, or capacity to do all of that?
That's the question.
And that's the question. And so at the end of the day, right, when it's that difficult to process, you have to figure out, all right, what are going to be the rules for this, and how much do I have it? I think it's, a YouTube channel or a social media account today is the same question as, can I get my Red Ryder lever action BB gun for Christmas of the 1950s and 1960s, right? Is what level of risk are you willing to accept? And at what level of responsibility can that child meet? And making sure that you're involved.
And that all circles back down to it's a tough question. And like I said in the beginning, it's so overwhelming. And I think sometimes that's what makes a lot of us kind of, oh my gosh, I really have to think about this. I got to set this. And it feels so overwhelming that you're like, I don't know if I want to deal with it. And you kind of just let it go maybe. And you can't do that because like you said, you have to decide what is important to you and what level of involvement you're going to have, because that's going to determine how much they should have,
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate you bringing all that up, and I'm excited that you're going to be joining us again so we can talk about some other things and more in depth, because you are a wealth of information. Before I kind of turn over into Amy, one other thing. How are you doing, Jacob, through all this stuff with you and the girls and how is it going for you? I want you to be real with us for just a minute.
Boy, am I glad the camera's not working, because you'd see the receding hairline and all of the new grays. No, it's, I think it's, the piece that I've taken away from all of this is, if you're a parent who's, working part-time or full-time, and you've been thrust into a position where you have to continue to work with those even more limited childcare options than we already have, or you're working from home and spending more time with your family and your kids, it changes your level of awareness in life. I think it allows you to really think, man, what am I doing? How much am I working? How much time am I not seeing my kids? What the priorities and where you place them, and all of that. And the changes and disruptions of routines for kids, and seeing how much that actually impacts them. On a personal level, both of you know me very well. I am a very high energy person. I like getting out there. I'm driving, I'm going, I'm talking to people. If I see you in Stop and Shop parking lot, we're going to be shooting the breeze for 15 minutes, even if there are cars passing us and we're like, oh yeah, we're standing here in the middle, right, Amy? All of those kinds of things. Like, I love doing that. And so I've had to be still for a long time. And that was a really hard adjustment for me. But and at the same time, in these past 4 months, I spent more time with my kids than I have in the last year and a half. And wow, that was definitely eye-opening, and a blessing for me to be able to spend so much time with my kids, because I love my kids, my family so much. And so I've been very happy to be able to have this.
So one more thing. I just want to tell you, I picked up a copy of the local magazine today, and I saw that you're one of the fabulous 40 under 40. So I want to give you a big congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very nice write-up and picture, and you're in good company. So I was very pleased to see you had made the list this year. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
So now we're going to kind of turn to Amy, and Amy is from Grief Cape Cod, and she's going to talk a little bit. Oh, there's Jacob finally. He's on the screen. I don't know what happened, but it happened.
Oh, of course. The whole time I've been talking.
So Amy's about to go here, and Amy's going to share some information with us about books, ideas, therapy games, artwork, and how grief is a thing that our kids, I personally am having high levels of anxiety and stress. It kind of ebbed, and it was high in the beginning. I kind of ebbed for a while. And now that the longer this goes on, and I'm thinking I'm overwhelmed with school going back, I'm overwhelmed with the screen time, I'm overwhelmed with it all. And I feel like I'm grieving the loss of my life and myself, because as much as I love the kids and I love spending time with the family, I feel like I'm losing a little bit of myself, because I'm a social person like you two, and I'm not getting that anymore as much as I need in my life. So Amy, take it away. Tell us how to deal with this grief.
I just want to make sure that there's no, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Good. Because there was a lot of stuff in the background, but it wasn't me. I muted myself the whole time. We were having some issues, but so I'm Amy Wyman. I am the director and founder of Good Grief Cape Cod. I have a master's degree in expressive art therapies. So I'm an expressive art therapist with a specialization in music therapy. So that is what we do at Good Grief Cape Cod. We offer services for children and families that are coping with loss, death, tragedy, divorce is another one, incarceration, addiction, families who are addicted to opioids we work with. And I want to correct you, Amy. You shouldn't have to say, I feel like I'm experiencing a loss, because you in fact are. We all are. We all have been since this COVID stuff has started, and I think more of us need to recognize that and take that into account, that this is our life now. Things are changing. Things are not okay, and it's okay that we're not okay. Jacob jokes about Stop and Shop, meeting at Stop and Shop. He and I met each other in the hot dog aisle, and I seriously wanted to just run over to him and hug him, but then I looked around and there's like all these people with like gloves and masks. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't do that. But it was so good to see him, and we did totally like hold up an aisle of people who were trying to grocery shop, and we didn't even care. But I said to him, I was like, yeah, I'm not okay, and that is the new normal. Being not okay is okay these days, and that is in fact okay. So what you're going through is something that everyone is going through, and you need to acknowledge it in order to move forward. So we're here to help everybody. What else do we do? I love working with Jacob, because every time I learn something new, and I'm just like kind of out of it, just taking everything in that that he just said. I'm like, I want to go back and talk about that, not about good grief. Um, so yeah, to kind of get back to the grief thing, I think that automatically people are like, oh gosh, grief, I don't want to talk about that. It's a taboo subject. Just as the same as child sexual abuses. But no, it just as Jacob says, the earlier we talk to these children about these topics, the easier it's going to be, like throughout their lives. You're opening a gateway of trust with them. And it's a real easy conversation to have the earlier on. So for instance, let's see, Olivia steps on a bug and then looks at it, and its guts are squished. And then you talk about, yeah, that bug was alive, and now you've killed it. It's dead. Its body is not working anymore. It doesn't need air to breathe. It doesn't need food. It doesn't need water. And the kid does with what he or she wants with that information and goes on from there. Maybe asks you more questions, and maybe, oh, okay, well, that was interesting. There's your first conversation about death that you can have. When your kid's like 1 year old and is exploring ants, and you've just opened up a door where, wow, I can talk about this squished caterpillar guts with my mom. That's pretty cool. And you've opened up a door to have other conversations with your child. I always recommend to be as honest as possible. If they are asking these questions, they deserve it. We need to respect our kids. They know a lot more than we think they do, and they have a lot more questions than we, think. The toddler who's always like, why, mama, why, daddy? We need to be answering those questions with them. But what we do at Good Grief, and you guys have caught me on a good time. We have some bad news. We were affected by COVID, so we had to leave our office space. But the good news is, with money that Good Grief had, we were able to make an at-home office. So I figured I would give you guys a tour, even though it's not completely done. But we'll go around and talk about things that we offer. So I'm going completely mobile, which is great because we rely on our in-school programming. What we do is we go into schools and we have after school or before school or during school groups meet up, and they do art therapy sessions with myself. And also what we were doing, Barnstable, Sandwich, Mashpee, and Falmouth all had individual sites, satellite sites, where we would have groups meet and have support groups. So that's what I offer. Let's see. I don't know.
Amy, I have a quick question for you really quick. So two things I'd really love for you to kind of touch on for the audience. One, the grief as it's affected the kids who are really missing their friends and how to have conversations about that and looking towards a return to either daycare or school, like what that may look like, because there are kids who are not going to be going back. They are going to miss those friends. And then also, as COVID continues, and obviously numbers in other states are rising, and we may see that happen here. And our Board of Health, Scott began, at least in Falmouth, in the schools, it's not a question of if, it's going to be when someone gets affected, and how to talk to our kids about that, because, I mean, it can have a lot of effects on them emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Well, I can give you an example of how I approached it with my kids. Honesty and kind of waiting for them to take it in, what they make of it, and then have them ask me questions. So we talked about kids deserve the truth. I'm a firm believer that kids deserve the truth. And just as Jacob said, you don't need to like go all into it. If they ask, then they really want to know. You can be honest with them and to go more in depth with it. But death is the same. All these losses are the same, situation. So when there was no school, I kind of broke it down. Hey guys, I'm really sorry. This is out of my hands. This has nothing to do with the school. There's a virus, reiterating what a virus is, how you can catch it, what we can do to stay away from a virus and stay safe and healthy. And that's why they're closing down the school. So we had that first initial conversation. And at first, I'm sure like most kids were like, yeah, vacation time. But then it went on for a really long time. When am I going to see my friends? When do I get to go back to my classroom and use my colored pencils and all my materials? And what about my artwork? Am I going to get that back? So it was a bunch of little conversations, but just reminding them why we are where we are today. Because there's a virus and I love you, I don't want you to catch it. I don't want you to get sick, because if you do get sick, I really don't know what that's going to mean, because some people are, unfortunately, older people are dying from it. We don't want it to spread to grandparents or friends, and this is why we can't have play dates, this and that. But also, it's a good time to introduce them, unfortunately, to the virtual world. We were just listening to Jacob talk about all the negative things about it and the scary things that are on there. I know that Amy, our kids talk sometimes through Facebook Messenger. And at the beginning of all this, my kids thought it was pretty cool to send friends funny faces and little songs and doodads here and there now and then. So they were enjoying it. Virtually, we can connect with other friends, and I think that it's important to keep that in mind. It can be done during this time, just not face to face always. So that's always helpful. I still am working with clients. We have a bunch of clients, unfortunately, because with this pandemic, a lot of tragedy unfolds, as I'm sure you guys can imagine. So we have some high priority clients right now that I'm working with, and luckily school is out now, but when school was in, they're sitting in front of a screen for 6 hours a day. And by the time it's time to come to Amy and do some art therapy, some fun stuff at the end of the day, without actually coming into my office and seeing me personally, I'm just another person that they have to talk to on a Zoom call. So it's been really, really tricky for everyone. And that's a loss, that personal interaction right there. When we think of losses, oh, death, yeah, that's a huge one, yeah. There's over 48 types of losses that one can incur by the time that they are age 18. So think about that number, that amount of transitions in life, that amount of stress. Right now, I mean, the kids are out of school, they're out of their routine, there might be financial problems at home. We all know that divorce rates have skyrocketed and parents can't even get out of the home because the housing market is so terrible. You've got siblings who aren't normally home together at the same time all day long, that are fighting. That's a relationship loss. I mean, my kids have gone at it the last, I've never seen them fight like this before in my life. As I've seen the last 3 months, you're losing out on time with parents, if you think about it, because sometimes one in the household is the one who has to go out to work while the other one is staying at home with the kids because of the childcare issue, because childcare centers are not open right now. So it's just it's a pyramid of all these things crumbling down into their lives, on top of not being able to see friends. Sometimes, unfortunately, in families, going to school is getting away from the negativity in your life, getting out of your house in the morning and having to get on that bus and go to school. It may be a struggle for some kids, but for some it's leaving really terrible situations, and they need that place to go, that safe place to go, and they're not getting that anymore. For some kids, it's the only time of day at school where they get attention from an adult, or have a nice hot meal for breakfast and for lunch, and have a snack before they go home, to possibly not being able to eat dinner. So there are just so many losses that have come out of this COVID thing, on top of if you actually knew someone who caught the virus and passed away. So there's a lot that we need to be doing. And as I've said, we are past the point of now focusing on mental health. Like, that should have been the first thing that we started focusing on. And people were we got to keep up with academia. No, we need to worry about the side effects that this is going to occur in all of our children. They're all feeling it, even from the infancy. The infants that are no longer in their infant room at, little kids or wherever they go. This is different for them. They don't know the extremity of what they have lost, but they pick up on facial expressions. They pick up on adults' behavior. They pick up on children's behavior. They know something's up because their brother is home all the time, and he didn't used to be home all the time. And mommy's got like mommy rage by 11 o'clock in the morning, and she's yelling at us, and daddy's nowhere to be seen all day. I don't see him until almost bedtime because he's working extra hours to keep up the financial needs that the household needs to stay alive. It's just, it's crazy. It's crazy the amount of stress and anxiety that these kids are under right now. I don't even know if that answered your question. I don't even know what your question was.
That's okay. You know what? It's such a big topic. Both these things are such big topics that, I kind of wanted to introduce them to our audience, and then we're going to come back to all these things because, we could spend a lot of time on them, and we are going to. We're gonna get this going as a series because this is, I think, a huge need for the community, and we need to know what our resources are out there. We need to be educated on all these things. And I wish we had more than an hour, but we're going to come back again with both of you.
Oh,
hold on.
Stay there.
What?
I thought you.
No, can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. The definition of loss is grief is the natural reaction to any type of loss. So even though we're tailored to death and tragedy, and it's not just about death and tragedy. It could be you lost, I lost earrings from Hawaii that I will never be able to replace. Those meant something to me, and I recently lost them. That's a loss. Like when a king loses his crown, it's important to me, and that's what matters. And we need to kind of keep that in mind with kids. I realized my 5-year-old missed his kindergarten graduation, and I don't know if that was more important to me or more important to him. That's kind of like a big deal. Think about all of the kids who are not getting a graduation, or not getting to go to prom because of all this. Those are all losses. So even though you or I might think, oh yeah, they'll get over it, I think we need to up the bar in respect for these kids, that this is a valuable loss. We need to acknowledge it. We need to acknowledge all of these losses that these kids have been going through, and we need to help them cope productively so that they can move forward. And I think we're not doing enough of that. We're just focusing on trying to get kids into school for the fall. So I think that should be on everybody's mind. What can I do to kind of help my child's mental health right now? Because they are at a huge disadvantage right now. All those kids who are going to college, and they're just gonna get thrown into a college without going to freshman orientation or whatever. It's just, they're losing out on too much, and we need to be focusing more on them and not on us. Okay, I'm done.
And we're going to talk more. And I really appreciate both of you coming on tonight, because they are tough topics. There's a lot to unpack with both of them. There's a lot of overwhelming feelings with all of it. I know you're talking about the loss with the kids, and then I'm sitting here thinking about what a loss it is for the teachers, or even the parents not to see their friends anymore, or the teachers who didn't get to see that's going to make me cry right now, because I think about the teachers not seeing their kids, thinking that was just going to be a week break, and it turned into months, and that makes me so sad for them, for all of them. See, but all those types of things are just such big losses. The ballet teacher, the owner of the ballet studio that was supposed to have a rehearsal, all those kids that worked so hard. I mean, it's overwhelming, and you're right. All these things we have to say, it's okay to be and take a moment for this, and we're all feeling it, and we have to work through it together, and we all have to play on the same team, and we have to move forward in what's going to happen, but it's a lot.
And I think that the first thing that really matters is acknowledging the feeling. We have such a culture that is suck it up, shape up, push through. It's only going to be a little bit longer. Things will go back to the way they were, but it's okay to say, I'm sad, and one of the things I recorded a video I was going to post on some social media thing a while ago. I went for a walk at my office, and man, I just missed being around my coworkers, this great group of people who I've just been through. We deal with some really tough stuff. And I just wanted to be able to have a cup of coffee with a coworker, and my daughter, who's, she hasn't been to school and everything, but she gets sad sometimes and starts crying, and she says she misses the library, just being able to go. And it's okay for us to acknowledge these feelings. And as parents, it's also a really great practice for us to sit down and say, yeah, it's okay to acknowledge this. It's okay to be sad, because again, these moments are the ones that allow us to have better conversations, more conversations with our kids over time, so that when they are those teenagers who are pissed off and don't want to talk to us, maybe when they're having one of those really hard times, they'll remember that and be able to come and sit down and talk to us again.
Absolutely. So now sorry, I got to mute Amy because we're having feedback issues. So now we're going to get to little part at the end here that hopefully you guys are as excited. I know Amy's been part of it before, and Jacob, this is your first time. So we award a little kindness gift to someone in the community. Someone nominates someone else, and we call them, we surprise them on live and read them what their kind friend said about them. Now, they don't always answer. So if not, we'll leave a message. I'm hoping she does. So our winner tonight is actually a Melissa White, and she was nominated by her friend Charlene. And we're going to call Melissa now, and we're going to surprise her with a little present. I love this part of the show because it's a nice way to give back, and other people are recognizing other people within the community that make a difference in their life. So it's one of my favorite parts. Yeah.
Hey, it's Melissa. Sorry I missed your call, but leave me a message. I'll get back to you soon. Thanks. Bye.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, Melissa. This is Amy from Cape Cod Moms, and I'm here on the Parent Pod on our Thursday Night Live with Jacob Stapleton from Children's Cove and Amy Wyman from Good Grief Cape Cod. And the reason we're calling you right now is because your friend Charlene nominated you into our Random Acts of Kindness Best Friend Basket contest, and we've selected you as the winner tonight. So I just wanted to read to you what Charlene said about you so that everyone can hear. And she said she's been friends with Melissa for 30 years. She was one of my first friends that I made when I moved here from Brockton. We have been through so much through the years, and she's always stuck by my side. We were 8-year-olds jamming out to New Kids on the Block, to spending weekends bar hopping, to being in each other's weddings. Seeing each of us have our babies, and both of our firstborn children share birthdays. We will always be close, even though we live far away. I love you, my friend, and she is more like family. So congratulations, Melissa. Feel free to text me later, but we're going to give you a little gift, and we'll get it to you this week. Thanks so much.
Congratulations.
Yay, Melissa. I love these stories because it's about friendships and people doing good for others and recognizing that. So I love combing through these stories every week and finding just the right one to kind of fit with our stuff. So let me just share, Children's Cove actually shared a thing while you were talking, Jacob. Let me just take our names off here. Let me see, hide name, how do I do this? So Children's Cove, to learn more about online safety for your children, please visit www.childrenscove.org. The parents/caregivers/online-safety/. And you can get more of this information that Jacob was talking about tonight. And then we also have Children's Cove's website is right here. I'm going to pull it up for everyone really quick. And then we also have, let me pull up Good Grief Cape Cod. I'll give everybody a minute to take that down. So I want to make sure everybody has your websites and your contact information before we get off here. And Jacob and Amy will be joining me again. You're going to see another schedule come out for August and September. And they will definitely be on it because they're two of my favorite guests.
Maybe love coming on.
Amy's website, no www, not at all. It's just goodgriefcapecod.org. You can find both these resources on Facebook. Both are open books. If you have anything, if you want to ask them anything, they're great people. Reach out to them, utilize them. They're here in our community. They're parents like us. And they can really help you here. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Amy. Once we end, stay on here. We'll chat for a few minutes. But thank you so much for everyone for joining us. Next week, we'll see you. We're going to be talking with Kevin Pacheco from Vivid Entertainment, who has started the drive-in movie theater over at the Fairgrounds in Falmouth. I went to the Yarmouth one tonight, so I have a little idea of what to expect. Also in the lineup for this month, we'll be closing out the month with Laura Shortino from Turning Point Dance Studio, another local mom. So we're going to be having some great conversations. So, thank you, Brooke. You are 100% right. They are both great support systems. And I'll be talking with Jacob and Amy actually after about how we're going to adapt the parent resource fair going forward. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be exciting because we need to keep connecting you to 2 amazing resources and lots of other ones. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. You can catch the replay on YouTube, our website, or IGTV. Thanks again.
Thank you.